to In My Own Words, starting Monday, a fresh week of In My Own Words, the hottest show in the streets. I'm your guest host today, Justin Smith, the director of recruiting for Touchdown Alabama. Stepping in for Steven on tonight. I am driving the boat. I'm going to be captaining the ship. I'm going to try to keep the car in the road for Steven on this evening for In My Own Words. Of course, most of you guys know me if you've been following Touchdown Alabama for quite a bit. I am the director of recruiting. As I said, be sure to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, subscribers, hit the notification bell. That's the first thing I need you to do. As always, the first thing I want you to do as well is to run those likes up. Let's get to 50 likes. That is the goal. That's the first thing I want you guys to do today. We have a jam-packed show, exciting show. I'm excited about it. There's a lot to get to, a lot of things to talk about. We're going to talk about Tony Mitchell officially returning to Alabama football. Those of you who have been following Tony Mitchell and the situation that he found himself in, I'm going to give you guys some background on that, talk about how it all got resolved and how he's back on the team, the conversation that he had with Nick Saban, talk about what I've heard about that conversation and Tony Mitchell's future in Tuscaloosa. We do have a message board on Touchdown Alabama that we do want you guys to be involved with. The link is in the description of this video. Be sure to join us to talk with Alabama fans, passionate Alabama fans like yourself, but not only talk to passionate Alabama fans, but also get updates, exclusive updates that you will not find anywhere else, especially in the recruiting world. Like I said, I'm a recruiting guy. We're going to talk about recruiting a lot on this episode of In My Own Words, but you're going to get some exclusive updates that you cannot find anywhere else. I think our recruiting coverage is continuing to improve, and I think that is something that you guys are going to want to be a part of. We're going to have you guys calling in, as always, on In My Own Words. Be sure to call in at 205-448-1358. You guys have an opportunity to talk with me, talk some recruiting, talk some Alabama football, anything that you want to talk about. Be sure to call in. Of course, the daily super chat goal is $100 as always. And like I said at the beginning, I am Justin Smith, director of recruiting, stepping in for Steven on today's jam-packed show. Excited about everything. And the first topic is Tony Mitchell officially returning to Alabama football. Those of you who have been following Tony Mitchell, you know what has happened. But I'm going to give you guys a quick breakdown, just a quick recap of some of the developing things that have been going on with him. Of course, he was arrested in March, charged with a marijuana possession charge. Of course, he was arrested in March in Florida. Had an opportunity to plead no contest to that, received 3 years probation, had to pay court costs, of course, certain hours of community service. Before that happened, Nick Saban said that there were no new updates on Tony Mitchell before he officially put in that plea of no contest and before his legal troubles and everything was behind him. So with that case officially being closed, now it is official. Tony Mitchell has returned to Alabama football. Had an opportunity to speak with a source very close to Tony Mitchell, and he talked about why Alabama decided to bring him back in. Of course, you guys have seen Nick Saban, how he operates, giving guys a second chance. It's something that he has done consistently in the past. So it's not crazy and out of the world to think that he has given Tony Mitchell a second chance. But the source that I talked to who was close to Tony Mitchell talked about Tony Mitchell officially being reinstated. And this is what he had to say. He said he has been able to report back to all team activities. He has done everything he needs to do. He understands the 3-year probation is not going to be a cakewalk. He's been following all the rules. I just hope this time has taught him a valuable lesson, how quickly the game of football and life can be taken away from you. So that is what the source told me when he said that Tony Mitchell was reinstated. Us here at Touchdown Alabama had an opportunity to break that story and say that Tony Mitchell has been officially cleared to return to team activities. I know that caused a lot of stir up on Twitter, on social media. A lot of people are saying like, yo, Alabama is crazy to let this guy back in after what he did and he doesn't get any punishment. I will say this, I'm not going to reveal the punishment or anything like that, but Nick Saban has always done things in terms of punishment. He has not made that publicly. He has done that within their organization. So I would say to keep that in mind. Tony Mitchell is not going to get away with just totally getting back on the team yet scot-free. He is facing a punishment that is going on within their organization. I do think that is something that people need to keep in mind when it comes to Tony Mitchell in this situation. But like I said, Alabama is giving him that second chance. Nick Saban is giving him that second chance. And this is something that we have seen Saban do in the past. He's talked about it. He has been commended for it in terms of giving young guys a second chance. And I think something important to remember about Tony is that he's not officially a freshman. Technically, he was supposed to be in high school at that time. That arrest happened in March. He was an early enrollee. He signed with Alabama in December, enrolled in January. He was technically still supposed to be a high school student. If he wasn't playing football at Alabama, playing football at the collegiate level, he probably wouldn't have been playing college football or been involved in a college football program just yet. So he's a young guy. That's what I'm trying to say. And Nick Saban has talked about young guys in the past, giving them that opportunity, giving them that second chance and what that can do for them. I remember back in December of 2014, he talked very passionate about giving guys that second chance, what it could mean to them. So I think this is a great step for Tony Mitchell, and he seems to be very grateful for his second chance, his second opportunity at the University of Alabama, and that second chance, second opportunity to play football. He actually spoke at the Southern Express end of the year banquet, had an opportunity to talk with some young athletes about how he dealt with the situation, some of the troubles that it caused them, and a lot of different things. I got some quotes from that. Of course, I will read that to you as well. This is what Tony had to say. I just want to start off by thanking God for not just being there for me, but also slowing me down, even through this situation. Even though the situation was beyond hard for me, I find joy in knowing that if God didn't stop me where he did, something much bigger could have happened. To all the athletes here tonight, just keep pursuing your dreams. God's got a designated path for you, and all your talent are from the Lord. Do not let anything distract you from your purpose, and keep a small circle of people that truly love and care about you. So he is grateful for his second chance and his second opportunity at the University of Alabama. And I'm pretty sure that was a tough situation for him. Something that really stood out to me about what he said. Also, he talked about looking at social media during that time, looking at how people were talking about him, how they were saying things about if he was right, if he was wrong, and how everything played out. He said that had a big role and had a big impact on him in terms of how he thought about himself, looking at social media and what everybody had to say. And that is something I felt for him, to be honest. I've been knowing Tony ever since he was an 8th grader, so I know he had trouble dealing with that. But I do feel it is good that he has that second chance, that second opportunity at the University of Alabama. And I think it is no surprise to anyone that Nick Saban is giving him that opportunity, considering how he feels about giving those young guys that opportunity. So when you take a look at Tony Mitchell and his future at the University of Alabama, you immediately look at that depth chart, at that safety position. Can Tony Mitchell come in and still make an immediate impact, put those troubles and things behind them, learn from them, grow from them, and have an opportunity to play at the University of Alabama as a freshman? I think that is a possibility when you take a look at Alabama's secondary situation. I do feel he is a little bit behind the 8 ball now when you take a look at the fact that he did miss that spring football, which he was set to participate in, with them being an early enrollee. Since he missed out on that, he is a bit behind the 8 ball than he would have been if he did participate in that. But he is a guy who committed to Alabama, signed with Alabama with that in mind. He wanted to play early. I remember I had an opportunity to talk with him. We actually did a photo shoot with him before his senior season at Thompson High School. And that's one of the things he just kept talking about. I'm going to Alabama. I want to have a chance to play early, man. Look at that depth chart. I have a chance to contribute early. So he's had that in his mind. I think with this behind him, I think he's going to have a chance to refocus on that. And when you take a look at what Mitchell has brought to the table in terms of him being a former 5-star prospect at Thompson High School, he's a guy who has just seemed to have a feel for the game. When you watch his game, he just seemed to know where to be. He's got a huge frame. First off, when you look at him, if you have an opportunity to see him at Thompson High School, the first thing you may think, it's not a defensive back, that's a linebacker. This guy is huge. So he has that huge frame. He's a physical player, a smart, intelligent player, versatile defensive back. Played cornerback his 9th grade year at Thompson. Transitioned over to safety during his 10th, 11th grade season. Went back to cornerback as a senior, and he's expected to play safety at the University of Alabama. So he's a versatile defensive back who could make some noise in Alabama's secondary this upcoming season. But there's going to be some competition. That is why Alabama added a veteran guy like Jalen Key. They want the best guys to play. So it's going to be tough, of course. But he does have that opportunity. He does have that chance to come into the University of Alabama, like I said, put those things behind him, officially reinstated, can officially return to team activities. Now, I'm going to give you guys an opportunity to call in the next segment of In My Own Words. As always, that call-in number is 205-448-1358. Call in. Tell me about what you guys got going in terms of what you want to talk about with Alabama football. Recruiting is not off the table as always, so be sure to call in after we return from break. Dang, I gotta get better.
This is Matt Caddell, former Alabama wide receiver, and you're listening to In My Own Words with Stephen M. Smith with Touchdown Alabama Magazine. And I got 2 words to say, baby. Roll Tide.
9 players have teamed up and released the Alabama Team Paper, which is a video yearbook they've put out for sale direct to fans. Now, for the first time, small dollar purchases from the fans can support the players as a group as well as a great cause, because $1 of every subscription payment is donated to the Boys and Girls Club of America. Be a 5-star fan base and support your team and a great cause with Team Paper. Check it out at teampaper.com/Alabama.
Remember the taste of Grandma's delicious sweets? Emily's Heirloom Pound Cakes brings back those precious memories with just one bite. Each cake made from scratch. They make the perfect dessert to share with family and friends for any occasion, and ordering is easy. Visit emily'sheirloompoundcakes.com. Click the online store and shop. Then pick up your fresh cake at the kitchen in downtown Homewood. Order yours online at emily'sheirloompoundcakes.com. Emily's Heirloom Pound Cakes, making memories from scratch.
Thank you for tuning in. Show your support right now by clicking that like button. If you haven't subscribed, hit the subscribe button now and enable all notifications to make sure you don't ever miss any of the best Alabama football news, notes, and information right here on Touchdown Alabama.
Welcome back to In My Own Words. I am your guest host, Justin Smith, stepping in for Stephen M. Smith on tonight, the host of In My Own Words. Usually, as always, you guys can call in My Own Words at 205-448-1358. I do want to hear from you guys, so give an opportunity to come in and talk with me about Alabama football recruiting. It's always welcome because I am the director of recruiting for Touchdown Alabama. Jam-packed show is going to continue. We still need 10 more likes, like I said at the beginning of the show. The goal is to reach 50 likes, so run those likes up. Like I said at the beginning, there's a lot to talk about on today. Started off talking about Tony Mitchell and his return to Alabama football. We'll talk about some recruiting updates with you guys who are following Alabama football recruiting on Touchdown Alabama. Be sure to stay locked in on touchdowналabama.com. Of course, follow me on Twitter, JD Smith 31 Smith on Twitter. If you have been following the Crimson Tide's 2024 recruiting class, you know that they have 8 commitments at the moment, trying to have a big summer, that a big last weekend of official visitors, an opportunity to host guys like 5-star athlete Charles Lester out of Florida, had an opportunity to host 4-star tight end Caleb Odom out of Georgia, 4-star defensive back Kay Bates out of Edgewater High School in Orlando, Florida, had an opportunity to check out the Crimson Tide's 4-star wide receiver commit Perry Thompson returned to Tuscaloosa for his official visit. I had an opportunity to catch up with Odom actually and talk a little bit with him about his official visit. He told me that he felt they'd had a lot of fun and an opportunity to build on relationships that he had with Alabama's coaches, with Alabama's players. He said it was an amazing official visit, and you guys know Alabama is trying to get leading tight ends on their roster. And take a look at Odom out of Carrollton High School in Georgia, a 4-star tight end in the 2024 recruiting class. Looking at a 6'5", 6'6", athletic receiving tight end. He's one of those tight ends who's lined up at wide receiver most of the game. I'm not the biggest fan of that at high school football level. If you watched the process, you know that I'm not the biggest fan of that, because I feel like when you get to the next level, you're going to an Alabama. Nick Saban talks about it all the time. If you're going to play tight end, you're going to need to have some experience with putting your hands in the ground, have some experience blocking. I think that is something that Odom is going to have to develop. Of course, he has another season at Carrollton High School, but in terms of being an athletic receiving tight end, he's one of the best in the country. So it is really good the Crimson Tide are seemingly making a move for the 4-star tight end out of Carrollton High School in Georgia. Like I said, one of the guys who officially visited Alabama over the weekend. Except Bates is a guy to pay attention to out of Edgewater High School in Orlando, Florida. One of the top defensive backs in the country. And an important thing to know about him is that he actually is from Alabama. He originally is from the Birmingham area, went to Pennsylvania High School before transferring to the university, before transferring to Edgewater High School. And he has connections with people on Alabama's roster. And take a look at guys like Kool-Aid McKinstry, who played at Penn Valley High School, knows Kai Bates. Those guys in that Pinson area, Crimson Tides, 5-star athlete commit Jalen Mbakwe. So Bates is a guy to pay attention to. Said 8 guys verbally committed, hosted those guys for official visits, have several other guys they want to get on campus in the future. If you guys have any questions about any guys that you want to know about, be sure to leave a message in the chat. Also get an opportunity to call in 205-448-1358. In my own words, get an opportunity to talk with me about Alabama football and Alabama recruiting. But before we get you guys back on the line here with me, I do want to bring up a topic that I did want to discuss in this call segment, and that topic is about Miles Johnson, a 2025 athlete who you guys I'm pretty sure most of you Alabama fans have not heard about Miles Johnson, but he's an interesting prospect to keep your eyes on for the future if you like Alabama football recruiting. Johnson has a pretty interesting story because he camped at Alabama on Thursday, but before camping, he did not have stars. He didn't have a recruiting page on any recruiting site. He had offers, but his only 2 offers were from Tuskegee and Liberty. He actually picked up his first offer, Power 5 offer, from the University of Alabama and Nick Saban, which is something that doesn't usually happen. So when it does happen, it catches people's attention, like, yo, who is this kid who came out of nowhere and impressed Nick Saban enough to offer him at camp and really like him? And that guy is Miles Johnson, a 6'2", 200-pound athlete who could be a running back or linebacker at the next level. So he's an interesting prospect. Just keep your eyes on in the future when it comes to the Crimson Tide's 2025 recruiting efforts. And those of you who follow recruiting and like to hear about the future of it and like to hear about the in-state recruiting in particular, that 2025 recruiting class inside the state of Alabama is on pace to be the best class the state has ever produced. I mean, the talent in that class is unbelievable. I'm talking about, when you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but when was the last time you heard that the state of Alabama itself has produced the #1 wide receiver, the #1 and #2 edge defender, a #1 running back, possibly a guy who could be in the conversation to be the #2 and the #1 running back in that same class? 2 guys in Alvin Henderson and Anthony Rogers. You have a top 10 quarterback in KJ Lacey. You have a top guy who could be the #1 safety in the country in Anquan Fagas, another top guy who's already the consensus #1 cornerback in the nation, and Naeem Offord. So the Crimson Tide are going to have to try to lock down the state of Alabama in that 2025 recruiting class. I know it's long off, but that class is going to be historically good. But we do have another caller live on In My Own Words. You're live on the show. Let me get your name and where you're calling from.
This is Chance from Georgia.
How's it going, Chance, man? Thank you so much for calling In My Own Words. What's on your mind?
Nothing much, man. It's different to see you on here. I watch you at recruiting too. I really dig your stuff that you do. I really like it.
Thank you so much, Charles. Chance.
It's cool. So what I wanted to touch base on was, I'm probably going to vent a little bit. It's got to do with all this mess that they're talking about with Nick Saban and NIL and I'm just the portal and stuff like that. I just think that's so just crazy to me, because I mean, to say Saban is scared of NIL or he's scared of LSU. I heard somebody say something on that. I mean, it just blows my mind. Like, the lack of respect for a man that took a program that was basically a dumpster fire when he got there. Alabama didn't have a good recruiting class when he got there. We were on probation. And look what he turned it into in his time there. He completed a dynasty, and it's still going today. And just the lack of respect in the media. And, I mean, I don't even watch Paul Feinbaum anymore. It just blows my mind how he's biased, too, towards Saban. It's just crazy. But Saban is in no way shaking in his boots, worried about what's going on with NIL or what they're doing at LSU at all. So I don't know if you're familiar with that, but someone was saying something about it the other day. It was crazy.
Yeah, I'm familiar with that. We actually have a segment later in the show. The next segment, we're going to talk a lot about that topic in particular, and I will give my thoughts more in detail in terms of how I feel about that whole topic. But yeah, that is an interesting topic, and the guy he's referring to is Michael Florio from NBC, who talked about Nick Saban and in NIL, and basically talked about Nick Saban being, in his opinion, Nick Saban being afraid of NIL and the future of NIL. And he wrote an article, of course, giving his opinion, an opinionated article about how he feels Nick Saban is afraid of NIL and what it could mean for college football. And I have a lot of information about NIL, of course, when it comes to recruiting, and with covering recruiting, NIL has become such a huge part of it. Now I'll talk about, like I said in more detail in the next segment. But when you take a look at NIL and Nick Saban, I would keep this in mind when it comes to Alabama football recruiting, just to give you guys a preview of what I'll be talking about. But Alabama and Nick Saban has fared very well in this NIL world so far in terms of recruiting, so they are sitting in a really good position. But thank you so much for that call, for sure. When we take a look at NIL and the impact that it will have on college football, I think the biggest thing is that it is unknown at this point in time. I think we're still trying to figure out its impact and how it will continue to impact college football. But I also want to thank Bill from New York for that $5 super chat. You are greatly appreciated. Again, the super chat goal is $100. Have Dance and Steven joining the show, but we'll go to break. When we return from break, we will talk about what that last caller said. We will talk about Nick Saban in the world of NIL. Is Nick Saban afraid of the future of NIL in college football?
Touchdown Alabama Magazine is Alabama football's premier publication. A subscription to Touchdown Alabama Magazine is the perfect gift for any Alabama fan. For exclusive news and information, recruiting updates, a free annual print magazine, and more, go to touchdownalabama.com and click join. Only $7.95 per month, or pay $74.95 for a full year subscription. That's a yearly saving of $20. Go to touchdownalabama.com today and roll Tide. Thank you for tuning in. Show your support right now by clicking that like button. If you haven't subscribed, hit the subscribe button now and enable all notifications to make sure you don't ever miss any of the best Alabama football news, notes, and information right here on Touchdown Alabama.
Welcome back into In My Own Words, the hottest show in the streets, rolling on a Monday. I am your guest host today, Justin Smith, the director of recruiting for Touchdown Alabama, stepping in for Steven on today's episode. Thank you guys so much for joining me. Continue to run up those likes as always. Thank you guys for those super chats. Those are greatly appreciated. Thank you, Waylon. Shouts out to Waylon, who's been a long time supporter of In My Own Words, Touchdown Alabama in general. Thank you so much for that $4.99 super chat. We have Dan and Steven joining the show tonight. So Steven is here in one way or another, but I do want to talk about what that last caller talked about. This segment on In My Own Words, we are going to discuss Nick Saban. Is he afraid of NIL in his future when it comes to college football? Of course, we can take a look at NIL and impact that it's having on college football. I think the biggest impact that is having is going to be on recruiting. You take a look at how you can easily now, of course, from the outset of NIL, according to many coaches, and I think this is kind of what Nick Saban was getting at and has continued to get at when he's talked about NIL. When it first came up, when it first came to be, the understanding was that it wasn't going to create an advantage for any team. It was going to be basically even model where like it wouldn't be the main reason that a guy would go to another school. And that's kind of Nick Saban's biggest problem, that it's not that at this particular point in time. You basically, at this point, you've seen teams and programs basically tell a recruit, this is what we're going to offer you. We've seen the ridiculous offer sheets, the contracts that some of these recruits have signed in terms of NIL and everything. So I think that is Nick Saban's biggest problem. But the topic that is causing a lot of people debate at the moment is the comments made by NBC sports pundit Michael Florio, who weighed in recently on Nick Saban and NIL. Basically, you guys can read that right there. Nick Saban would like NIL if it made it easier for him to recruit. It doesn't, so he hates it, and he keeps fighting against it to the point of even suggesting letting players become employees and unionize. Of course, that's an opinion made by Michael Florio, who is an employee of NBC. He did an article dive deep into why he felt that way, why he feels that Nick Saban Saban is afraid of NIL in his future. And I know a lot of Alabama fans read this and was like, oh, that's not true. That's not true. I don't believe that. I don't believe that. But don't kill me, Alabama fans. I do feel there are some things that are in here that are quite true, at least in my opinion, but I do disagree with him when he made one particular statement. When you take a look at some of the things that he had to say, he said Saban wants to eliminate the advantages that schools in bigger and richer cities or with bigger and richer alumni bases will have when it comes to pulling money from NIL collectives. He basically wants an NIL salary so he can go back to using his silver tongue to charm recruits and their family members into securing prime commitments with all other things being equal. I think that is correct. I think he's speaking the truth when he says that, because that's kind of what the understanding of NIL when it first came out, that is what it was supposed to be. It was not going to create an advantage for certain schools because of the amount of money that they could give a player. That's kind of was the understanding that a lot of college coaches had going into NIL. So Nick Saban does. He's right. He does want it to be equal. So it's based on what that, like what he always says, what is the best opportunity for the kid to create value for himself in terms of his future. That is why you should pick a particular school, not because this school is going to give you so millions of dollars or anything like that. It should be based on those opportunities, not the NIL opportunity. So I think it is correct. Yes, Saban wants to eliminate the advantages that those schools who can provide more money. Yeah, he wants to eliminate that because that's kind of the understanding that he had going into it. So I agree with Michael Florio, and I think he's right when he says that. Another thing he says, if Saban coach one of the schools and one of the states he's referring to not be complaining. I guess that's more opinionated. Pre-NIL, Saban had cracked the code on recruiting. Now he's having work even harder to get the locked door of Kittner board read about to swing open. But when you take a look at Alabama football recruiting, like I said, Alabama isn't struggling on the recruiting trail. Alabama still has its same level of respect when it comes to recruiting. And it was evident this past week. I mean, the Crimson Tide offered a 2024 offensive lineman after camping, offered him. He committed, and he basically committed right there. The Alabama name speaks for itself on the recruiting trail. I don't think that's a problem for Alabama at the moment. But the statement that I definitely disagree with when it comes to Michael Florio in the article that he wrote is when he said Saban just wants the dollars to be even among all schools so that he can go back to using his homespun charm to stack the deck for the home team. Is that simple? Is that clear? In the era of unlimited cash, Alabama won't be able to compete over the long haul, and every dollar that goes to NIL collective is a dollar that could have gone to the Alabama program, which pays him more than $10 million per year. And that is where I agree. I disagree. That is where I feel he's just way off in terms of Alabama not being able to compete over the long haul in the world of NIL in recruiting. In terms of Nick Saban still being at Alabama, and I think I feel this way because I am heavily involved with recruiting. I do cover recruiting. I still know what it means to simply get an Alabama offer and what that means for your recruitment. I mean, the Alabama offer changes everything. No matter what stage of your recruitment is in. We've seen guys have top 3s, top 5s, and they are about to commit to a school, and the Alabama offer comes on the table. Then things suddenly start to change. So I don't think NIL, in terms of the future of NIL and Alabama not being able to compete, I don't think that is going to be a thing, and I don't think Alabama fans have to worry about that as long as Nick Saban is in Tuscaloosa in the foreseeable future. And like I said, I cover recruiting. I know what it looks like. I know what players are saying. And there are guys in the 2025, 2026, 2027 recruiting class. I've heard them say this, that they want to commit to Alabama as soon as they get the offer. Like right now, they want to commit to Alabama. So the Alabama program is in a really good position. So that is why I feel that he was way off with that statement and saying, is that simple? Is that clear? Alabama won't be able to compete. But going back to the beginning, when he says that Nick Saban wants it to be even, he wants everything to be equal. I agree with that. I think that's what Nick Saban has been saying the whole time. That is why he wants to unionize it. That is why he wants everything to be clear and fair across the board. And does that create an advantage for Alabama? Of course it does, in terms of what their program has to offer. And when all things are equal and you're basing your decision on that, of course Alabama is going to have an advantage. And that is why I feel, like I said, Michael Florio, I think he hit the nail on the head in certain situations when it came to that argument. But also the biggest thing I felt he was way off was him saying that he feels Alabama will not be able to compete. But we will go to another break. When we come back, we'll go more into the recruiting world. I'll break down the Crimson Tide's entire 2024 recruiting class and each commit.
Chris Rogers, 2009 national champion. You are listening to the baddest, when I say the baddest, sports show in the state of Alabama. In my own words, you know, yours truly, Touchdown Alabama Magazine. Don't touch that dial.
Every sports fan deserves the proper representation. Whitwell Sports introduces to you the Title Towel. Wave that Title Towel in the air like you just don't care in support of Nick Saban and the Alabama Crimson Tide. Only $9.99 and it lasts a lifetime. Head on over to whitwellsports.com and get your Title Towel today. Touchdown Alabama Magazine is Alabama football's premier publication. A subscription to Touchdown Alabama Magazine is the perfect gift for any Alabama fan. For exclusive news and information, recruiting updates, a free annual print magazine, and more, go to touchdownalabama.com and click join. Only $7.95 per month, or pay $74.95 for a full year subscription. That's a yearly saving of $20. Go to touchdownalabama.com today and roll Tide. Thank you for tuning in. Show your support right now by clicking that like button. If you haven't subscribed, hit the subscribe button now and enable all notifications to make sure you don't ever miss any of the best Alabama football news, notes, and information right here on Touchdown Alabama.
Welcome back into In My Own Words. I'm your guest host for tonight's show, Justin Smith, the director of recruiting for Touchdown Alabama, filling in for Steven on tonight's show. Thank you guys for tuning in. Like, subscribe, subscribe to the notification bell, be notified if we drop content on our YouTube channel. We got 64 likes. Let's go for 75 likes, guys. We got 64. We're trying to get to 75. Be sure to hit that like button. On this last segment of In My Own Words on tonight, I'm going to discuss recruiting, what I feel most comfortable talking about, and that is the world of Alabama football recruiting in the Crimson Tide's 2024 recruiting class. I want to break down each of these guys to you because the Crimson Tide's 2024 class is off to a nice start. Like I said earlier in the show, they have 8 commitments at the moment, with commitments from 5-star quarterback Julian Sand. They have a commitment from Jalen Mbakwe, 5-star athlete who most likely be a defensive back at the next level. 4-star wide receiver Perry Thompson, 4-star wide receiver Rico Scott, 4-star linebacker Sterling Dixon, another 4-star linebacker, and Caden Jones. Also have 3-star offensive lineman Joseph Ionata to go along with 4-star defensive lineman Jeremiah Beeman. So the Crimson Tide's 2024 recruiting class has a nice base at the moment, but this is just the beginning. This is just the base of the class. I will look at a lot of these guys to be the recruiters of this class for the Crimson Tide, specifically guys like Julian Sand, Jalen Mbakwe, Jeremiah Beeman, who's just a natural leader, a guy who I feel is going to have a huge impact on Alabama football in the future, but not only on the field, but I think this guy's impact inside the locker room will be humongous in the future. And Sterling Dixon is a guy I will put into that conversation as well. But I'll break down each of those guys right here for you, starting with Julian Sand, the future of the Crimson Tide's quarterback room out of Carlsbad High School in California. A guy with an amazing touch on his deep ball. I think that's some of the things that it's one of the things that just stood out when I first saw his film, and just continues to stand out. See him move around the pocket here, delivering throws, can make all the throws. But as you guys know, when it comes to quarterback and playing the quarterback position, it's not the fact that you can make all the throws. That is usually what gets you recruited. It's how consistently you can do it. How can you do it when the pressure is on, when pressure is in your face, when it's a situation where you need the offense to score, and that is what usually makes a great quarterback. But in terms of some of the things that Sand brings to the table at the moment, you have that nice touch on the deep ball, you have that great accuracy, you have that pocket presence, knowing when to step up in the pocket, knowing when to take off, knowing where he's at in the pocket, knowing where the pressure is coming from. So he has that high football IQ with a great arm, with a nice touch. So he has all of the tangibles that you want out of a quarterback. I'm ready and excited to see him actually play in person, because I think nothing beats an in-person evaluation. And we haven't an opportunity to see Julian Sand play just yet, but we do plan to do so in the future. But the Crimson Tide's quarterback position is in a really good position by having a commitment from Julian Sand in 2024 recruiting class. The Crimson Tide also have a commitment from 5-star athlete Jalen Mbakwe, an in-state athlete out of Clay Chalkfield High School in Pinson, Alabama. He's one of those guys who we have seen in probably every element. We've seen him camp. We've seen him play 7-on-7. We've seen him play football in a game where he only played wide receiver. We've seen him play in a game where he played wide receiver and defensive back. He's a guy who has exceptional, verified elite speed. I'm talking about speed that has been verified on the track. Holds a PR of 10.5 in the 100-meter dash. And if you're moving like that on the track, you're moving. You have the elite verified speed. He cracked sub 11 multiple times in his track career. It's most likely his last time running track, as he will enroll at the University of Alabama as an early enrollee in January of 2024. When we take a look at Jalen Mbakwe, he's projected to play cornerback at the next level, has that speed, has that physicality. Don't see him play a lot of cornerback actually at Clay Chalkfield High School at the moment, but I've seen him play at a couple games. I've also seen him play at this camp you guys are watching right now at the Under Armour camp in Atlanta, and he displays some physicality, moves really well, comfortable, a fluid mover, got that elite speed. Like I said, a guy who has those great ball skills. If you had to compare him to a guy who's on Alabama's roster at the moment, most guys most likely compare him to Kool-Aid McKinstry, and I've seen both of those guys play. They have a similar playing style, you could say, but I feel like Mbakwe is a faster Kool-Aid McKinstry, but you probably could say McKinstry is more athletic and more wiry in terms of being a athletic prospect. Crimson Tide also have another commitment in the 2024 recruiting class from an in-state guy and 4-star wide receiver Perry Thompson. When you take a look at Thompson, he lists his high school, he lists his height and weight, he lists his athleticism. The first guy you're going to think about is Julio Jones, because he goes to Foley High School. He's 6'4", he's athletic, an athletic freak, plays on both sides of the football, physical guy, will make hits at safety, not afraid to tackle a guy. We saw that with Julio Jones in the NFL. Whenever his quarterback threw an interception, you'll see him go down the field and chase a guy and make a big hit. So Perry Thompson has some similarities to Julio Jones, not only with this game and the fact that they both attended Foley High School, but Perry Thompson is a huge get for the Crimson Tide. They actually snagged him very early in the 2024 recruiting class. He was their first commitment, the first guy to jump on board with them. Now they are trying to hold on to him because programs like Auburn are not going to stop. Auburn is a program who is going to try to build its program back up and rebuild its program off of in-state talent, and they are not going to stop recruiting Alabama commits. Every in-state Alabama commit we talk about on today is still getting heavily recruited by Auburn, including Perry Thompson, who is set to officially visit the Auburn Tigers later this month. Jalen Mbakwe officially visited the Tigers actually on last weekend. So the Crimson Tide are going to try to hold on to those guys in the 2024 recruiting class. Another guy who the Crimson Tide have a commitment for in this 2024 class is 4-star defensive lineman Jeremiah Beeman out of Parker High School in Birmingham, Alabama, one of the top defensive lineman prospects in the country. I think this guy should be pushing for 5-star status, in my opinion. If you have not watched his junior huddle film, be sure to check that out. This film comes from when we saw him in Atlanta at the Under Armour Atlanta event a couple of months ago. And he was impressive back. I think he's more of a game guy. I think he does certain drills decent, but I think at this point he's a better football player than drills guy at this particular point in time. And of course, those guys in those particular drills, guys like Will Anderson and guys who do those drills well at the combine, they train for those drills in particular. So those young guys probably can do those drills as well. But turn on Jeremiah Beeman's film. You're going to see what I'm talking about. 6'4", 265, a guy who can climb the ladder at the line of scrimmage and snatch the football out of the air. Not only catch the interception, but return it for a pick six.